Hey everybody, welcome back to Young Engineers of Today. Hey Mateo, I hope you're ready to continue with Fusion 360, and also I hope you had a good weekend. Hope you did some fun stuff, you know, got to enjoy life at that school for a little while, all that good stuff. But yeah, we're going to continue with Fusion 360, which means that we're going to, excuse me, actually convert our design from 2D into 3D. And I know you guys are ridiculously excited about that. Woo, yeah, yeah. Um, but Well, let me go ahead and open up Fusion 360, and in the meantime, I will go over what we went over last time. So we did we did the big rectangle, obviously, and then we did the 3 horizontal and the 2 vertical rectangles, and then we dimensioned all those out so they became very thin rectangles. And those are actually going to be our shelves and top and back and all that kind of stuff on our bookshelf. So hopefully we should be able to start moving this into the 3rd dimension soon enough. But I'll go ahead and make sure that I want to go through and make sure that we've got everything already set up properly first. But yeah, go ahead and start up Fusion 360, and we'll go from there. Eventually it'll start up. That's the only thing, is it takes a decent amount of time to get going. There we go. Sort of. Not really. Hopefully you guys are having a better, faster luck than I am. Why? Why? Okay, there we go. All right. Oh no, it's still loading. Okay, there we go. Let me go ahead and open up the saved project that I have. And again, just as a reminder, you can open it up by clicking that little 9 squares up in the upper corner, and there should be at least recent data. You can go to my recent data, and it should pop up with the project that you've been working on. Hopefully it's been saved. So let me go ahead and I'm going to click, there we go. In order to, whoop, sure. So I don't actually want to sketch anything, but I do want to stay in this view because I want to show you guys, basically give you some idea of what it should look like. There is one more thing that we need to sketch out, one more dimension that we need to sketch out, and that is the distance from this rectangle to the front of the larger rectangle. So just as a reminder how you guys do that, you can click on Sketch Dimension. It's going to be generally under the Sketch menu. Mine is up here at the top because I think what I did is I dragged it up here. I don't remember. Anyway, you can always just select it manually from the Sketch menu, and I'm going to click on this line and this line. So the 2 lines which represent the distance between this small vertical rectangle and the front of the larger rectangle. And I'm going to bring the mouse down here, and I'm going to set that to be just 1 inch, and it should bring it in just a little teensy bit. And that should be good enough. Well, should I make it an inch or should I? We'll keep it an inch because a half an inch is going to be very, 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 very small. So we'll keep it an inch for simplicity's sake. Now it means that the kickstand, the kickboard, the kick thing is going to be very low down, but that's okay. So with that, hopefully everything should be dimensioned. As you can see, I've got a dimension for the entire height of the large rectangle, which is the height of the bookcase. I've got a dimension for the length of the bottom of the rectangle, which should be the depth of the bookcase. I've got a dimension for the thickness of each of these rectangles that are inside, which corresponds to the thickness of the wood that we're going to be using to construct this. And there's also, actually, I don't know if that's there. Let me double check that. Yeah, that's not there. So we're going to do that real quick. There should be one more dimension. So let me go ahead and dimension that out. It's going to be the distance between the top of the bottom rectangle and the bottom of the middle rectangle. Bring it out. Boom, like so. We're actually going to label this one shelf. And hit enter. And enter again. And everything will resize itself. Did I actually dimension this out? The back wall is going to be the same as the height of the bookcase. And you have a driven dimension problem? It's also going to be ply. Man, this is always much more of a challenge when I'm not able to see it. Let me see if there's any easy way to notice which dimension is the one that's creating the problem. Checking. Finding work strain dimensions. When in doubt, Google. I'm just trying to see if there's any way we can easily tell what dimension is causing that problem. Unfortunately, there doesn't really seem to be anything because Fusion 360 can't assume which one is which for you. So the best solution they have is to delete dimensions until you're able to change the dimension you want without problems, which is not exactly a helpful answer. Sorry, what do you mean when you say that, Hannah? Which lines? Oh, and it was just popping and saying the thing was over constrained cone. That's all. Okay. So up here, your vertical rectangle is like peeking out past the length of the bookshelf. Well, you can probably dimension the actual that line itself if you mouse over it and see if the whole thing highlights. You can dimension that to be the depth of the bookcase. And that should work. Did that help out at all? Cool. Excellent. Are you still running into an overconstrained problem there, Matteo? Okay, have you been... What exactly are you trying to dimension right now? So the distance from here to here? All right. Let's see here. That usually means, so do you have the distance from here to here dimensioned out? And you'll be able to tell because you've got, the arrow signifying it, whether or not you do have that. No. Okay. Do you have the bottom of the large rectangle dimensioned out? I believe you do, if I remember correctly. To choose one rectangle and drag it around. Yeah. Well, sort of. You can use move. Sorry, for Hannah. You could use move to be able to move things around. But it's not really going to be possible to move them if they're dimensioned already. Um, and so, Matteo, do you have the whole bottom of the rectangle, the entire large one dimensioned out, right? You should, if I remember correctly. Okay. I'm not sure why it's giving you an over-constrained then. Let me see here. Why are you cancel? Okay. Whoa, what happened? Now, these little these little symbols here, little white symbols that appear all around. Um, if I'm over here on the sketch palette, Matteo, I can unclick this show constraints and those all disappear, right? Those are directly related to, well, those are constraints that exist on your particular sketch, things that need to be true. So for instance, if I click it again so that they show up, I've got one here that tells me that this needs to be at a right angle, that these need to be parallel lines, things like that. Do you have any maybe additional symbols that you don't recognize from what you see here on my computer on yours? Maybe at points or anything like that? Anywhere on the bottom or anything? Oh, I think my Fusion just crashed. Yeah, that's not supposed to happen. I'm not supposed to be able to pull away the Fusion 360 window and leave the UI behind. That's actually highly strange. There we go. Uh, 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 come on. Why are you doing this to me? Um, I'm not entirely sure why it's doing that without being able to look at it. As it stands, as a last resort, like I said, you can delete things that are like dimensions that are already created in order to basically remove constraints from the drawing so that you're able to dimension out that part for yourself, like for the so that you can like dimension the distance and stuff like that. But otherwise, without being able to look at it, I couldn't tell you what exactly is causing that. Unfortunately, but um, don't worry about that too much right now because what we want to do is we want to make a little bit of progress on this. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to turn your sketch into a 3D model. At least get started on that kind of thing. Because that will help sort of get the help you guys visualize what this bookshelf is supposed to look like a little bit more easily, in addition to making some progress on it today. So let me go ahead and zoom out. And as you can see, this is the sketch of the side of the bookcase. If I rotate it, we can actually look at it in 3 dimensions. Ooh. So that we can actually maybe make a little bit more sense of it more easily. Imagine this is a sidewall in the bookcase now. and you can get a better idea for what exactly these are supposed to represent. Now, what we're interested in is we are interested in, back to the arrow. Sorry, what are you referencing? You mean I just hit escape? And that's all I did. Yeah, in order to bring it back to the regular cursor, you can just hit escape. And that should get you back to this point. Now, also, I also, here, just to give a full idea of what I actually did, I can just click, I can hit escape in order to bring back my regular cursor, and I can click stop sketch in order to make everything look 3D again, as opposed to just this front-on view. For sure. So now that we're looking at this particular view, what I want to do is I want to turn this into 3 dimensions. So I can go up here to create, and as you can see, we've got a couple of different create ones that are up here by default, but I'm not interested in either of those. So I'm going to click on the drop-down menu for create. I'm going to go to extrude. And it's going to bring up this little window over here, just like it does with everything else. Basically, everything's going to have its own little contextual menu here. Start, profile plane, direction one side, extent, distance, operation, new body. That's all great. We're going to keep everything exactly that, not modify anything. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Shift key on my keyboard. This allows me to select multiple things. I actually don't need to, but I'm going to do it anyway, just because it's always a good habit to have when you're trying to do stuff like this. And I'm going to click on this one, so it's highlighted in blue, and this one. So this entire top rectangle I now have highlighted. And notice how I had to highlight it in sections because we had 2 overlapping rectangles when we were drawing it in the sketch, and so it doesn't want to assume that this first thing we drew was all one rectangle. It actually broke this up into its own little separate body, which is where these 2 rectangles intersect. So if we mouse over all of these things, we can see that all of the areas where they overlap become their own little separate areas. And that's fine. That just means we have to make sure that we're highlighting everything we want to whenever we want to work with this stuff. So now I have both of these highlighted, so they're blue. And under profile it says 2 selected. That's excellent. Now under distance, I want to use width. And as you can see, whoops, uh-oh. Bring the sketch back. Okay. As you can see, something appeared there. So I can click on it. Perfect. For all intents and purposes, it now exists, although it is a bit see-through, but that's okay. That's just because they always want to make sure that the sketch is visible through the 3D model. But there you go. That's our first bit of 3D modeling. I made it width. I made the distance width because now, as you can see, you might get a better visual for this. This is one wall of the bookcase, and this is the top of the bookcase. So we'll extend these shelves out. We'll extend the back out. We'll extend, the bottom shelf and the kick plate out. We'll extend this wall out so it actually has a dimension to it. Right now it has no dimension. So we want to make sure that, it has that as well. But yeah, so far we've extruded the top of the bookcase. Hey, look at that. Bam. Crazy. But things are starting to take shape. There's a little shadow there and everything. So raise your hand if you've got the top of the bookcase extruded out. You might just have a floating block like I have here. Okay, we got a couple of hands up. Oh, just about everybody. All right. Okay, so yep, there we go. Perfect. So if you extruded like I did, you're probably just looking at a floating block now. Like the sketch has disappeared. However, what we can do is over here under sketches, you can click the little arrow next to it and you can see that there's a sketch 1 which has the dim light bulb next to it. Go ahead and click the light bulb and it should bring back the sketch. It just automatically hides the sketch because it assumes that we're done with it as soon as we extrude it. But we ain't quite yet. So we're going to bring back that so that we have that. And there you go. This is the first part of our bookshelf. So we have one body and one sketch so far. We will also need to make at least one more sketch and several more bodies, obviously, because a body is just simply a 3D shape. The top of this bookshelf right now is considered a body. If we made a back, it could be another body. If we made another shelf, it could be another body. The wall on the side will be another body, stuff like that. So we're going to have several bodies on this bookcase. Okay, so over here in the browser, you'll see that Sketches is one of the options. It's got a little folder, a little light bulb. You can either click the light bulb twice and you should be able to bring everything back, or you can click the arrow next to it and click the light bulb next to Sketch 1 in order to make it visible again. Okay. All right, so I had to go through everything in order to get a feel for what was coming up next. So now we're going to extrude again. So go back to create and then extrude, and we're going to select everything except for those top two rectangles that we just extruded with. So now, whoop, if I rotate it around, as you can see, it's every other part of this sketch except for that very top rectangle that we used to create the top of the bookcase. And then under distance, I'm going to enter in fly, bam, and hit enter. And then hit OK. So now we should have a sidewall. Now you got a sidewall and a top on the bookcase. So we haven't really done much, but we've actually gotten two of the walls of the bookcase set up already. So we're getting there. We are definitely getting there. Go ahead and raise your hand once you've gotten that done. Okay, you bring back the sketch by either double-clicking on the light bulb next to the Sketches folder or clicking the arrow and bringing up the listing of sketches in which you'll see Sketch 1, and you can click the light bulb next to that in order to bring it back. There is a little picture of a light bulb. There should be a picture of a light bulb right next to it. It's the little circle with the little silver thing underneath it. It doesn't look like exactly like a light bulb, but that's what it's meant to signify. There you go. Perfect. Okay, so yeah, like I said, so far we've got the words. We've got the top and one of the sides. So let's go ahead and let's get everything set up in place for the second side and a couple other things. So first off, a bit of a problem we have right now. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and hide the uh, the side sketch here, just so I can show you guys in greater detail. It doesn't really look like there's a line between the top of the bookshelf and the wall, right? It looks like actually they're all one piece. And if you feel that way, you would be right. It's actually Fusion 360 has automatically joined these two pieces together, so now they're all one element. They're all one body. If we look at bodies, we can see we've only got one body listed here. If we make it disappear, the whole thing goes away. But we don't really want that to be the case. Generally, when we look at a bookshelf, it's made up like the wall and the top are separate entities, right? Like it's not like it's all one piece. Especially if you might be cutting this bookcase out of wood or something like that. You'd probably like this would be a very difficult cut to make in wood. So you'd want to ensure that like you're building it out of as flat, like the wood is as flat as possible, so that you can cut it out of like one plank of wood or something like that. One giant piece of wood and not a plank, one giant sheet of wood, and then constructing it, by attaching those different sheets together. So we'll need to set up the mechanism so that we can have the other wall over here, and also separating the top of the bookshelf from the side wall. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So now if I go to the Construct menu, and I select midplane, so we got midplane down here, it says creates a construction plane at the midpoint between two faces or work planes. And the way it works is you select two faces or planes. That's the one I want. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And it's going to ask me to select two faces on this body. Now here's the deal. I want the midway point right, about here. Obviously that's not the midway point, but I want it midway along the top, for reasons that will hopefully make sense in a few minutes here. So what I'm going to do is it needs us to select two planes, right? Let me go ahead and select midplane again. Okay. I'm going to select this face here. So as you can see, just the little tiny edge of the top. And I'm going to select this face here on the exact opposite side. And so now we've got this partially see-through orange plane that sort of bisects the top of the top of the bookshelf. Just exact opposite faces. I selected this one right here and this one right here. And those gave me the midplane. Now it looks a little wonky and large, and that's okay. That's just because it's trying to average the fact that we have such a short face over here and a long face over here. So you can kind of see how you kind of split the difference between the two. So that's why it's awkwardly long there. So okay, so far so good there. Oh, you know what? I apologize. I'm actually going to bring the sketch back again, and I'm going to undo this plane, because I do want that midplane to be very small, because if it's not, that can potentially mess things up in the future. So again, I'm going to select this long, thin face on this side. I'm going to select the long, thin rectangle on this side using the sketch. So as opposed to the body, I'm using the sketch. Click on it, and then I'll get a much thinner midplane. So as you can see, it's much smaller now because it's actually the same height as the face on both ends. So there we go. Now we got that midplane. Now we've got some separation to do. Now, what exactly did we do here? Okay, so that's actually an important thing to go over. What exactly is this yellow face? Why did we make it, or orange, I guess? Why did we make it? What is it important for? This is a construction. Constructions are essentially just, think of them like comments in computer code, except more versatile. We use those for our own reference when we're building something like this. We can also use them for reference when we're trying to add on to our drawing in Fusion 360. So for instance, we could mirror, as we're about to do, we can mirror this side of the drawing over here, but we need some point to mirror across, so we can actually use this midplane as our basically where everything's mirroring, so we could mirror it exactly along the middle. And you'll see what I mean in a minute here. First things first, though, like essentially just think of a construction as something that's a useful building tool, like a piece of measuring tape or something like that, almost, except more versatile. And we'll spend some more time working with constructions as we continue with the bookcase. In the meantime, though, I want to separate this wall from the top of the bookcase. I want to make sure that they're two separate entities, so that we can A, reflect it, and B, it'll make sense. We can separate it from the rest of the bookcase. It'll make sense in relation to laying the bookcase out on a flat plane of wood for construction reasons. So first, before we reflect, we need to split the body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Modify, and I'm going to go to Split Body, and you can see you get this weird little diagram over here on the right-hand side, the tooltip. It's got the cube, but it's got the wavy face going through it, the wavy plane. This is the one we want. So it creates new bodies by dividing selected body using a profile, face, or plane. Select the bodies to modify, then select the profile, face, or plane that divides the bodies. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to select Split Body. It's going to ask us what body we want to split. Of course, we want to split this whole entire thing. So if we click on it, the whole entire thing is going to turn blue. That's what we want. So under Body to Split, we should have one selected for this entire body that we've created so far. So now under Splitting Tool, I'll select that by clicking on it. So now our body is still blue. Let me look at the sketch over here on the right-hand side. Now the sketch is going to be difficult to see because the entire body is selected blue right now, right? In fact, I can just click on the light bulb to make it disappear for a minute, and I can actually see the original sketch that we made a little bit more easily, because this is what I'm interested in. I want the splitting tool to be this line right here. Let me go ahead and circle it. This line right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it. And as you can see, I get this whole red area right here. Let me get rid of the little drawing I have there. This whole area turns red. And if I hit OK, it actually separates the two. So if I hide the sketch again, and I look over here on the side, you see just by virtue of the fact that they've got this line right here, these have become two separate bodies. And in fact, we can see over here in the browser, they're listed as two separate bodies. If I click on this face, it only selects this face on this particular body. I can click on this face up here, and it selects this face on this particular body up here on top. So now they're two separate entities, which is great because we're going to mirror this body right here, body 2, over onto this side so that we have, you know, two walls, because you kind of need those for a bookcase. It's kind of necessary. So far so good, right? That's making sense to you? Raise your hand if it does. All right. Well, not every hand, but if you have any questions about anything, obviously feel free to throw them into the question box real quick so that we can address those before we continue. Right. Well, I saw your hand was up, so I figured you had it. Where is mirror? Oh, we haven't gotten to that part yet. We're actually just about to cover that real quickly, though. But yeah, that, as far as that's concerned, that's going to be under Create. And then down here, you've got an option called Mirror, and then it's got this neat little whatever this is, and it's got two sides of it. And the description is makes a mirrored copy of selected faces, features, bodies, or components at equal distances across a plane. Select the objects to mirror, then the plane to mirror around. I don't think it's featured enough to be a car unless it's like just a general like aerodynamic outline. But then which way is it facing? Yeah, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and click mirror, and it'll bring up the mirror tool. And this isn't too bad. So first things first, under pattern type, you see you've got a couple of different symbols here. We've got pattern faces, pattern bodies, pattern features, and pattern components. These are all just separate. Basically, it's asking us what we want to mirror. Excuse me. Do we want to mirror a face? Do we want to mirror an entire body? Do we want to mirror a feature? Or do we want to mirror a component? Don't worry about what features and components are for right now. We'll spend a little bit of time going over kind of that idea in the future. But we do want to mirror a body. Now you can see why we separated these two. So I'm going to mirror this body, selecting it by clicking on it. So under Objects, we're going to have one selected. Perfect. So that's the object that we want to mirror. Now we need to select the mirror plane, that is to say, the plane that this is all going to be mirrored around. If we want to, we can select one of these down here, and it'll give us a little preview, and you can see that, like, oh, look, there's like this little sort of faint gray area. That's just because it's being mirrored over that axis. If we selected, like, I don't know, this plane here, as you can see, it gets added over to this side because it's reflecting around whatever axis. Mirror is under Create. Create and then Mirror. What we want to do is we want to reflect it over here so it's on this side of the bookshelf. So we're going to use that midplane that we created earlier. As you can see, it appears nice and conveniently exactly on the opposite side of the top of the bookcase. So then I'll go ahead and hit OK, and bam, there it is. So now we got a left and a right wall and a top. Our bookshelf is coming together pretty nicely, if I do say so myself. We're getting there, bit by bit. Yeah, definitely. So we go up to Create. Here, let me undo it. Go up to Create, and then Mirror. Under Pattern Type, I want to make sure that Pattern Bodies is selected. So click on it, because I want to mirror this particular wall. So I have that selected for objects. As you can see, one selected and it's highlighted blue. Then under Mirror Plane, I'm going to select that mid-plane that we created with the constructions. You can see pops up right there, hit OK, and we've got two walls now. That help? 1-1. For sure. I think it's pretty useful. All right, excellent. So yeah, after all is said and done, you'll have a mirrored sidewall. Bam. But yeah, in some ways it may seem like we didn't save a whole lot of effort. However, we'll be using that particular midplane for a few other things, so it does save us time down the line. So there might be something a little odd with all of this, something that might be a little bit more difficult for us to continue making this bookshelf. Does anybody have a guess as to what that might be? Yeah, yeah. What might be the problem with that? The shelves in particular. Both are true. Well, technically, we have nothing to support the bottom of the shelves, although we'll be setting up the mechanisms for that. But yeah, we've already extruded the wall. And as you might notice, the sketch that has the shelf is on the outside of the wall, which is not exactly conducive to us being able to put it on the inside. If we try to extrude it, it's going to basically intersect with this wall, which is not what we want. So we need to find some way to put this on the inside so that we can extrude the shelves inside and have that be done. However, we're actually going to do that on Wednesday. We'll go ahead and call it a day for right now. We made some... Yeah, actually, that is a possibility, Hannah. I'm glad you thought of it. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and call it a day for now. We'll turn it over to question and answer time, and then we will... we'll do the poll questions. We'll turn it over to question and answer time. And then we'll break for the next couple of days. So let me go ahead and I'm going to click the save up here. I recommend you do the same. Just make sure that everything is as is. It's going to ask you for a version description. That's fine. Don't even worry about it. Just hit OK. And then we'll do our typical ending of class stuff. So yeah.